Long ago, on top of a quiet hill, stood an ancient royal villa, where a young boy named Arisu lived with his family. The villa was famous throughout the kingdom, not for its size or beauty, but for the honey produced by Arisu's father. Rich families traveled from distant towns just to buy a single jar. To everyone else, honey was a luxury. To Arisu, it was simply happiness. Whenever he felt upset, his grandmother would hand him a warm piece of bread drizzled with fresh honey. Somehow, every worry disappeared after the first bite. His father often smiled and said, "Honey tastes sweetest when it brings a smile to someone else." Arisu never forgot those words. Every afternoon, he would run down the hill to the nearby village, where his friends were already waiting. He never cared that they came from simple homes. To him, they were simply his friends. Little did he know, the lesson that would change his life wasn't waiting inside the royal villa. It was waiting down the hill. Every afternoon, Arisu would race down the hill with the same excitement. The moment his friends spotted him, they would drop whatever they were doing and run to meet him. Together they spent hours playing beside the river, chasing each other through the fields, or exploring the nearby forest. One afternoon, after playing until they were exhausted, everyone sat beneath a large banyan tree to eat. Arisu opened the basket his grandmother had packed for him: fresh bread, sweet fruit, and a small jar of honey. His friends quietly unwrapped their own lunches. Most of them had nothing more than rough bread. Some sprinkled a little salt on it. Others simply dipped it in water before eating. Yet no one complained. They laughed, shared stories, and ate as if it were a feast. Watching them, Arisu slowly realized something. Not every child grew up with the same comforts he did. That day, for the first time, he looked at the small jar of honey in his hands, and wondered what it would feel like if someone had never been able to taste it. A few days later, while wandering through the forest, one of the boys suddenly stopped. "Look!" Everyone looked up. High on the branch of an old tree hung a large wild honeycomb. For a moment, no one spoke. Then excitement burst through the group. "Honey! We actually found honey!" One boy laughed and said, "Today's a lucky day." Another grinned from ear to ear. "I haven't eaten honey in so long. If we can bring it home, my little sister can finally taste it too." Without waiting another second, one of the older boys wrapped a cloth around his hand and began climbing the tree. The others watched from below, cheering him on. As he reached for the honeycomb, a swarm of bees flew out. "Ah!" The boy cried out as the bees stung his arms and face. He lost his grip and fell. Everyone rushed toward him. "Are you all right? Can you stand?" They helped him sit up, checking his arms and brushing away the bees. Just then, another boy came running toward them, holding up the cloth bag with a huge smile. "I caught the honey before it fell." The group erupted with joy. They quickly forgot the pain and gathered beneath the tree. The honeycomb was carefully broken into small pieces. Each child took only a little, making sure everyone had a share. As the sweet honey touched their tongues, smiles spread across every face. One boy closed his eyes and whispered, "I wish I could eat honey like this every day." Arisu looked around at his friends. For him, honey had always been ordinary to have. But at that moment, he realized it was someone else's dream. On the way home, Arisu couldn't stop thinking about his friends. The next afternoon, he smiled and said, You don't have to climb dangerous trees again. Come to my house. We have plenty of honey." His friends looked at each other in surprise. Really? The following day, they climbed the hill to Arisu's villa. His grandmother welcomed them with a warm smile. She served fresh bread and bowls of golden honey. The children ate happily, their faces lighting up with every bite. Before leaving, one of them quietly said, "That was the best meal I've had in a long time." Arisu smiled. Seeing them happy made him happier than eating the honey himself. The next day, they came again. Then the day after that. Soon, climbing the hill to Arisu's villa became part of every afternoon. They played together. They laughed. His grandmother served warm bread and fresh honey. No one ever left hungry. One evening, as everyone was getting ready to go home, one of the boys stopped near the gate. "Arisu, my little sister has never tasted honey. Could I take a little home for her?" Without even thinking, Arisu hurried inside. He filled a small jar with honey, wrapped a few slices of bread in a cloth, and placed them into his friend's hands. The boy's face lit up. "She'll be so happy." A few days later, another friend asked for some. Then another. Each time, Arisu smiled just as warmly as he had the first day. Watching others enjoy something he had always taken for granted filled his heart with a quiet happiness. From the kitchen window, his grandmother watched the children walk down the hill, each carrying a little more than they had arrived with. She smiled, but only for a moment. Then her eyes slowly drifted toward the honey jars on the shelf. She didn't stop Arisu. She didn't question him. She simply stood there, thinking. A few days later, Arisu's father returned from the honey estate, carrying fresh jars of honey. Seeing them, Arisu ran over with a smile. "Father, did you bring the new honey?" His father laughed and handed him one of the jars. As Arisu carried it inside, a few drops slipped onto the kitchen floor. Before he could wipe them away, tiny ants began gathering around the honey. "Grandma, look," Arisu said, kneeling down. They found it so quickly. His grandmother sat beside him, watching the ants in silence. Then she dipped her finger into the jar and placed a few more drops beside the first ones. Arisu looked at her in surprise. "Grandma, that's too much. They're so small, they'll never be able to finish all that honey." She smiled softly. "Maybe you're right." Then she stood up and quietly walked away. Early the next morning, before the sun had climbed over the hill, Arisu's grandmother gently knocked on his door. "Come with me." Still half asleep, Arisu followed her into the kitchen. She pointed toward the floor. Every single drop was gone. Arisu stared in disbelief. "No way. They finished all of it." His grandmother nodded. "They didn't finish it all at once. They carried away a little, then came back for more. A little became a little more. And with enough time, nothing was left." Arisu stood there quietly, looking at the empty spot on the floor. Then his eyes slowly moved to the shelves, where several honey jars were no longer as full as they once had been. His grandmother gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes, Arisu, kindness disappears the very same way." That afternoon, as Arisu sat reading in the courtyard, one of his friends climbed the hill alone. "Arisu, could I have a little honey? My mother wants to taste the one you've been giving us." Arisu held the jar in his hands. For the first time, he didn't answer immediately. He remembered the ants. One drop, then another, then another. He took a slow breath. I'm sorry. Not today. His friend frowned. Not today. You gave Rohan some just yesterday. So why not me? Arisu stayed silent. The boy's face slowly changed. He let out a small laugh and shook his head. If there's no honey, then there's no point climbing all the way up this hill. We can just play in the village. Without another word, he turned around and walked away. Arisu stood there quietly, watching his friend disappear down the long path. For the first time, the hill between the village and his home felt much longer than it ever had before. Arisu finally understood why his grandmother never stopped him from giving. Some lessons can only be learned after the jar begins to empty. The ants never carried away all the honey in one trip. They took only a little each time. Then they came back again and again, until there was nothing left. People can be the same. Not everyone who asks is selfish. Many simply grow used to receiving. Yesterday's kindness quietly becomes today's expectation. And tomorrow, they no longer notice what it costs you to keep giving. If all you ever do is pour from your own jar, one day you'll look inside and realize there's nothing left for yourself. Kindness should never disappear from your heart, but neither should wisdom. Give with love. Give with purpose. And remember, the hand that gives also deserves to be full, because a person with an empty jar cannot keep filling everyone else's.